Hey guys, this is Milton _fanfiction and this is What If Naruto Time Travel to Future Part 2. Before we start, please do consider subscribing to this channel and turn that bell notification so you don't miss new uploads like this. Give this video a thumbs up and comment down below for any suggestions. Anyways, let's begin.
Chapter 3. Future. Tsunade and Kakashi stared at him. Neither of them said anything. What do you mean, future? Naruto asks, looking back and forth between the two adults. What do you think? Kakashi asks, but he was asking Tsunade. It doesn't seem like he wants to go along with my crazy idea. Either this guy is really good, or we're dealing with the real thing. We can figure that out later, Tsunade said. Right now, whatever we believe, it comes down to the same thing. Whether it is really Naruto or an exceptionally good fake, we have to assume that Madara or Kabuto is involved. We don't know anyone else that would have the power and motivation to do either. I believe he's real, Kakashi said. It would be pointless for them to make a fake like this. It would make much more sense to switch him with an appropriately aged replacement, en route to the Lightning Country. Then again, I can see why they'd pull a younger and less powerful version forward. Don't joke like that, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said, smiling shakily. That's impossible. You're still messing with me, aren't you? Naruto, how else do you explain the village being destroyed? Kakashi asked softly. You said yourself the last thing you remember is right after Orochimaru's attack, and it wasn't nearly as bad as this. Yeah, but, Naruto threw his arms out, eyes wide. How could that be? As I was saying, the only ones with the power and motivation for this are Akatsuki. Tsunade frowned. Right now we're going to assume it was their doing. You are aware at this age that they are hunting for you, right? She tapped her chin, trying to remember. Yes, Naruto said slowly. Uchiha Itachi and a weird fish-looking guy tried to kidnap me when we were out trying to find you, Ba-chan, and Sasuke showed up, but neither of us were any match. If Ero Sennin hadn't rescued us. He lowered his gaze. Ero Sennin said that they were after the Kyuubi. Even though he had come to accept his burden, he still didn't like saying it out loud. Tsunade put a hand on her hip. If you understand that much, you'll understand what is going on now, at least the basics. Shortly after that time, Akatsuki seemed to quiet down and leave us alone for a while. We aren't entirely sure why, except that you did travel with Jiraiya for a long time, and that probably had some influence. But recently, they have been going after you actively again. She bit her lip, worry clear on her face. That is why they may have brought you here, to double their chance of catching you. But that is just a wild guess. We can't actually say until we know more. They're still after me. Wait, is that why they destroyed the village? Naruto croaked. To get to me. Tsunade hesitated, then nodded. Please don't start blaming yourself for that now, Kakashi said, knowingly but a little exasperatedly. The you in this timeline has already done that enough. But, how am I still alive after that? From what I saw, it looked like someone dropped a huge bomb on this place. When did they invade? How many people died? He buried his face in his hands. I didn't think all that out there was my fault. Fortunately, you weren't in the village at the time, Tsunade said. Naruto, she added gently, stooping down in front of his chair to look him in the face, because of you, the village wasn't wiped out entirely. What else would you call that? Idiot. Tsunade cut him off. A village is more than a few buildings. A few years ago, we didn't fully understand how powerful Akatsuki was. What happened here wasn't an invasion. All of the destruction was done by a single shinobi. And you were the one who confronted him and made him back down. He had god-like powers of destruction and revival. He killed half the village and then turned around and sacrificed his own life to bring them all back. All because of you. Naruto stared at her, eyes wide. But, wait, am I really that strong? The villagers I met this morning were saying the same thing. You didn't defeat him with your fists, Kakashi said. Naruto turned to look at him, and he smiled. Though you didn't do half bad with those, either. He opened his eye and looked very serious. I was one of the ones he had to bring back. You saved my life. Wait. Naruto stared at him, trembling. You mean you died, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi waved a hand. That is all in the past now, for me at least, so don't worry about it. he was cut off as Naruto, now freed from the ropes, tackled him. Stupid sensei. How can you say that like it doesn't matter? And why did you do something stupid and get killed in the first place? It was bad enough when you got put into a coma. Kakashi shuddered and gently pried Naruto off of him. Trust me, Naruto, that time was way worse. I'd take death over that kind of torture again any day. Besides, it worked out. Nay, I'm still here. I think that's enough for now, Kakashi, Tsunade warned. It's probably not a good idea to tell him too much, especially not until we understand what this is. If he's really from the past, it could alter things. Besides, I get the feeling there are quite a few things about the future that he would not like to hear. Like what? Naruto said immediately, glancing at her. Hokage-sama is right, Kakashi rested his hand on Naruto's head. Right now we need to figure out what we are going to do with you. Honestly, it's lucky you managed to make it back to the village before Akatsuki or whoever did this found you. Lucky. Or it could be intentional, Tsunade considered. We can't let our guard down. She sighed heavily. Great. Now we have 2 Narutos to hide instead of 1. Just when I thought this job couldn't get any harder. Hopefully this one will be a little more apt to listen to us, since he at least realizes he can't take on Akatsuki by himself, Kakashi said, poking Naruto's forehead. Naruto scowled and rubbed his forehead. Quit messing with me. Since when have you been all touchy-feely? Last time I saw you, you were like, good luck doing the next mission on your own. And all that. Sorry, Kakashi held up his hands pacifyingly. You're just like a cute younger brother version of the Naruto that we know now, so it's difficult. I bet Tsunade-sama's just dying to pinch your cheeks. Naruto glanced suspiciously at her again and she looked away, neither confirming nor denying it. Ahem. Tsunade coughed. I'm sorry, Naruto, but since we aren't sure whether or not this is an enemy trap, you're going to have to stick with Kakashi and stay out of sight for a while. You do understand that, right? She leveled her amber eyes at him. The only way we can remain convinced you aren't an enemy is to have your cooperation. Naruto was thrown by how serious she sounded suddenly. I understand. He'll have to stay in the village until we figure out something else. There's too much going on with the cleanup and preparations, Tsunade said in a clipped voice to Kakashi. For now, we need to keep this to ourselves, even within the village. The less chance the enemy has of knowing where he is, the better. If it does turn out to be true, though, she frowned. We'll have no choice but to tell the other cage, at least. They wouldn't appreciate me hiding Akatsuki's movements after agreeing to share, but we have some leeway until we know exactly what is going on. The other cage, Naruto said, puzzled. You mean the cage of other hidden villages? But, why? Enough, Tsunade said. She bent down in front of Naruto again and did a series of hand seals before poking him in the forehead, eliciting a small half growl from him. Get over it. I've placed one of my specialty henge on you, so it should work until I choose to take it off of you, or if your chakra can't maintain it. Considering your ridiculous reserves even at this age, I don't think that will be a problem. Naruto felt his face. What did you do? Tsunade pulled out a compact mirror from her sleeve and handed it to him. I made you look like a generic genin for the moment. It's not a permanent solution, but it'll suffice for moving you right now. Naruto peered at himself in the mirror. Generic was right. He had plain brown eyes and hair, longish hair that was tied back, and a hitai draped around his neck. He wore a dark green square-necked tunic that closed with 2 ties on his right side, with standard pants and sandals. Not even a speck of orange anywhere. Where am I going? He muttered unhappily. Tsunade straightened up and put the mirror back in her sleeve. In the long run, I'm not sure. But for right now, Kakashi will take you to your room, since it's vacant as of this morning. You may have noticed that our housing is limited right now. And Kakashi is next door to you. Many ninja unaffiliated with any of the major clans have been put in boarding houses, Kakashi explained when Naruto looked at him in surprise. Construction is moving along very quickly, though, so we won't be in this awkward situation forever. I'm counting on you, Kakashi. Naruto, Tsunade added, and Naruto looked at her. I promise I won't forget about you being there, so try to stay put and out of sight, please. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. I'll try, but you know, Ba-chan, When I get into trouble, I don't usually mean to do it. Tsunade's eyes flashed dangerously. Well, this time, try harder than usual. Kakashi, she commanded, and Kakashi nodded. Time to go, he said. He pulled out an unfamiliar, green-covered Ika volume and slouched casually toward the door. Naruto paced after him until he caught up. You're still obsessed with those perverted books, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto couldn't stop himself from looking all around as they walked through the village, but he tried to keep the agitation off of his face and act natural. If he didn't know better, he'd think he'd gone back in time, not forward. He doubted the village had looked like this since the very earliest days of the Shodai Hokage. It hurt to know what lay in store for his beloved home, and what was worse, all because of him. Or rather, the thing he had inside him. It was the complete opposite of what he wanted, of the rosy dreams he had just the previous day. How could he, the him of the future, have allowed things to stray so far from that? They emerged out on a wide dirt thoroughfare that seemed to go right through the center of the rebuilt settlement. Naruto's eyes darted back and forth, apprehensive but curious. What assured him the village's destruction hadn't come with massive casualties was that there were people everywhere. The street was busy as a hive. He could tell it had been long enough since the attack for the initial shock to wear off for the villagers. When he looked around, he saw everyone at work and generally happy, with shinobi and civilians and outside contractors working side by side. As Kakashi said, things seemed to be moving along swiftly and efficiently. It reminded Naruto very much of the reality that he had just left, except on a much grander scale. It was baffling, and the sense of pride he had felt before in Konoha's strength came back to him as he looked all around, even though it was muted somewhat by the disbelief and anger that someone would do this. Where is everyone staying? Naruto asks. There's no way there are enough houses yet for this many people, right? Kakashi said, not looking up from his book. Most of the contracted workers are living in tents, and the clans have to tough it with all their people in a single building until they can recover their old grounds. Shinobi families with underage children and many civilians are still living in the evacuation shelter in the mountain. Most other active shinobi, like us, are out here in housing blocks grouped according to unit. Teams are in the same place whenever possible so they can react quickly if necessary. It's convenience over comfort for everybody, he explained. Oh, Naruto knew one thing. If he ever made it back to his own time, this would never happen. Even if he had to leave the village, he could go into hiding somewhere. Or, try to go find Akatsuki. Maybe he'd be able to put at least a scratch on them. Even if they killed him, at least they wouldn't be hunting him down and destroying the village in the process. He vowed right then to use any means necessary to find out the details and go back to stop this from happening. Naruto clutched at the front of his tunic, over where the seal was hidden, concealed by the henge. Kakashi looked down at him from the corner of his eye but did not comment. Here we are, he said lightly. They had arrived at a row of identical white houses with green tiled roofs and wood trimming. He entered one through a plain-looking wooden door and Naruto followed. To the left was a room filled with low tables, where just a few shinobi were lounging. Naruto supposed most were out working this time of the day. They mounted a narrow wooden staircase. A friend of mine made this particular block of houses. It was one of the first, Kakashi said. You know him too, in this time. He left with the future you, guy, and some others this morning. Naruto didn't answer. He was still preoccupied by what he'd seen. Kakashi said. I wonder if the timing is a coincidence. The whole purpose of sending you to the land of lightning, after all, was to make it so Akatsuki couldn't find you. Maybe, instead of looking for you, someone made you come to them. Naruto looked up sharply as they stepped out onto the second floor. You think they already know I'm here? Kakashi shrugged. You said you landed outside of here, but unless whoever brought you made a mistake, they had to know you'd try to get to Konoha as soon as possible. But then, Naruto clutched at the front of his tunic again. Why am I still here? The village will be in danger again. That's why you're disguised, Kakashi poked him in the forehead again. And I can't say you'll be able to stay here indefinitely, but, he rested his hand on a doorknob and turned to look at Naruto seriously. I think you're misunderstanding something. We didn't send you off because we were worried about the village's safety. After all, There isn't much of it left right now, and our enemy doesn't care about a beat-up ruin. You were sent away to protect you. To protect me. Kakashi motioned into the room and Naruto walked in front of him. How do I put this? It's less along the lines of, if you're here, Akatsuki will come here, and more along the lines of, if you are here, it will be easier for Akatsuki to find you. Huh, what's the difference? Perspective, Kakashi said enigmatically, and Naruto scrunched up his face uncomprehendingly. A lot has changed since you were just a cute little 12-year-old genin. Naruto looked around his room slowly, almost surreptitiously, remembering suddenly that his other, older self had lived in there up until that morning. It was a very creepy feeling, yet strangely comforting at the same time. The room was extremely basic and mostly bare, but there were one or two items he recognized. The room had all that was left from his home after the destruction of the village. There was an unfamiliar trunk, a futon folded up neatly beside it, and a duvet folded on top of that, yellow with white spirals all over it. He walked over to a small wooden bookshelf by the window he was pretty sure he recognized, and slow smile came over his face as he picked up the picture frame sitting there. It was a familiar photo of Team 7. So then, how old am I now? He set the frame down and turned to Kakashi excitedly. How much time has it been? I'm strong, right? He clenched his fists and gave a face-splitting grin, savoring the thought. I bet I have some incredible jutsu by now. Hey. Hey, Kakashi-sensei. You will be 17 in October, Kakashi said calmly, keeping his nose buried in his book. And I'd say you get by. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto managed to bring some of his natural whine into the neutral voice he'd adopted along with the hench. Show me a jutsu I can do in this time. I know you've probably copied them all. Come on. Kakashi murmured vaguely. Obviously, I'm not Hokage yet, but. Naruto rubbed his chin thoughtfully. If I can take on someone from Akatsuki, I at least have to be a Junin by now. Kakashi snickered. What? Naruto huffed. Come on. It can't hurt to tell me something like that. Or, what about Sasuke and Sakura-chan? And everyone else? Oh, wait, Naruto held up his hands in a halting gesture, not noticing how Kakashi's posture stiffened slightly. Did I pass the Chunin exams the first time? Or at least before Kiba did? Man, if I'd known, I would have asked him. Oh, he'd be so mad. No, wait. Naruto grasped at his hair in horrified realization, and Kakashi just watched him blankly. Why am I worried about rankings when the village was just attacked? Kakashi-sensei. Is everyone? He turned suddenly to Kakashi, realizing that even though he had seen a lot of people out there, he hadn't seen any of his friends. Kakashi sighed and put Ika tactics back in his pocket. No significant casualties resulted from the village's destruction, he said carefully. The results would have been catastrophic, but as you heard, the attacker was an extremely powerful shinobi who was persuaded to reverse the loss of life he caused. Naruto gave a little uneasy laugh. That sounds unreal. Kakashi shrugged. It was. But that's the kind of enemy Akatsuki is. There aren't many of them left now, but the ones that remain are just as unbelievable as that one. The ones really pulling the strings always hide until last. Naruto sighed in relief. But everyone made it through the attack. At least I wasn't responsible for my friends getting hurt. Yes, that's true, but, Kakashi frowned. He rubbed the back of his neck uncomfortably. I sort of agree with Tsunade-sama. We should be careful about what you know. But it's inevitable the longer you are here, the more you'll be able to piece together whether we want you to or not. Some of those things, well, situations haven't always turned out as nicely as this one did, Naruto. Naruto lowered his gaze. I know. You do. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Naruto closed his eyes and nodded. I've seen enough of our world to know that bad, senseless things happen to people who don't deserve it. People hurt one another. Bushy Brow didn't deserve to have his arm and leg crushed by Gaara, and Gaara didn't deserve to be shunned by the sand, but the sand didn't deserve to be fooled by Orochimaru, either. Even Zabuza and Haku didn't really deserve to die, and you know. The Sandaime didn't. He opened his eyes and slowly looked up at his teacher. It scares me to think stuff like that has kept happening all the way, till now, but I'm not surprised. It's why I've continued to get stronger, in order to protect what I can, right? This time, I even managed to prevent anyone dying, he grinned suddenly. Whatever else happened, I guess I didn't grow up too badly. Kakashi stared blankly at him for a long time. Then, with a soft chuckle, he stepped forward and placed a hand on top of Naruto's head. What do you know? Maybe we should have all given you a little more credit a long time ago. Naruto swatted the hand and ducked, glaring at Kakashi suspiciously. Anyway, I need to go see if Guy has responded yet. We can't have a basic grasp on this situation until we confirm whether the you of this time is still around, or if something happened to him. Can't I? You stay here, Kakashi said firmly, holding up his hand as Naruto stepped forward. I didn't bring you here just to turn around and take you back. The less you see right now, the better, at least until it's allowed. I will tell you what we find out, unless there's a really good reason for me not to, in which case I will at least tell you that I can't tell you. He smiled cheekily. Naruto grumbled and plopped down on the floor in front of a low wooden table. What am I supposed to do, then? Kakashi sighed. It would be difficult for anyone to stay inside knowing they've arrived in their own future, but just try to bear with it until I find out something. If you get hungry, I'm sure you can find some ramen stashed around here somewhere. Other than that, just find a way to quietly amuse yourself. He suddenly appeared crouched on top of the table, holding up Ika Tactics in Naruto's face. Here. You wouldn't have read this one yet. No thanks, Naruto said resoundingly, crossing his arms. I don't read garbage. Still has no taste. Suit yourself, Kakashi said lightly before stepping out into the hall. Later. Be good now. He raised a hand in a lazy wave before closing the door behind him. Naruto groaned and flopped practically face first down on the table. He sat that way for several minutes, chin propped on the table and staring blankly at the wall. Now that he was listening, he could hear indistinct voices from somewhere below, and the sounds of distant hammering and sawing coming from out in the street. Just sit around. You try sitting still in a situation like this, jerk. Naruto muttered, but with no real vehemence. He'd rarely felt so far out of his depth before. The last time had been when Akatsuki had come for him. He suppressed a shudder as remembered opening the door to Uchiha Itachi, looking down at him like an ant with his murderous red eyes as if he could rip all the limbs from his body just by looking at him. He probably could have. Pull it together, Naruto commanded himself, sitting up with a forceful shake of his head. This wasn't the time to be afraid. He needed to take this chance to learn as much as he could, whether anyone was going to help him or not. Naruto went to the window and looked out at the street and the very open skyline, previously dominated by the sprawling, cheerful buildings he was used to in the past. The enemy had the power to do this. One shinobi alone. He'd heard of people that strong before. It was pretty much a given that all the Hokage, and the Cage of other lands as well, he supposed, could take on whole armies or defend the hidden villages by themselves. The Shodai Hokage was known for the power to change the face of the landscape itself when he fought. And Naruto had been exposed personally to touches and glimpses of the capabilities of ridiculously powerful ninja, like the Sannin and the Sandaime Hokage, and his brief encounter with Akatsuki. For him to face someone like that by himself, like everyone said, maybe not on completely equal terms, but still, to survive, and even win. He was plenty confident in himself, but it was hard to wrap his head around it. As messed up as some things were, that part was pretty damn awesome. Naruto peered curiously around at his room again. There was nothing in it to suggest that its occupant had the power to go toe-to-toe with an S-rank missing nin. There wasn't much of anything in it at all. Just 4 plain wooden walls, and a small alcove with a sink. The toilets and bathing areas were probably communal. Naruto got up from the table and crouched curiously in front of the bookshelf, probably the only scrap of personality the room had. He definitely recognized it as a piece from his old room, as it was carved with various boredom-induced doodles and lines. He tried to imagine what it would be like to pick through the ruins of his home to find anything salvageable. Did it hurt? It was impossible to guess his future self's mindset at that point. It wasn't like he cared over much for his crappy apartment, and the fact that everyone was alive would mean a lot more. But still, everything he'd known was destroyed. He ran a finger over the few books that the little bookcase held, looking for clues. He wondered if it could be considered snooping if it was all technically his stuff. To his dismay, he found several volumes of Ika, including the one Kakashi had shown him, Tactics. Looking closer, he saw that their spines looked new and unscuffed, and their pages were crisp and stiff. It didn't look like these particular copies had ever been read, at least. Naruto's hand landed on a small brown paper-covered book that looked much more worn out than the others. He curiously pulled it out to look at the cover. The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi. Now that sounded like the kind of story he could like, and judging by its well-worn edges, he did. Standing, Naruto laid it down by Team 7's picture for later and turned to the wooden trunk. "Excuse me," he mumbled as he opened the trunk, still undecided about whether this could be considered snooping. He was delighted to find several stacks of his favorite instant ramen on the left side, and clothes folded up on the right. Whoa. Naruto held up a mesh armor shirt that was several sizes too big for him. Below that were a few t-shirts. Below that he found a pair of standard black ninja pants, and he hopped up excitedly to hold them up to his waist. The hems trailed over his feet and he snickered gleefully, holding them at arm's length again to try to calculate how much height age would bestow upon him. A polite knock came on the door and Naruto scrambled, nearly got tangled on his own feet while trying to stuff everything back in the trunk, realized that was stupid, finally was able to stand and not fall, then stood very still. His heart was thumping very fast. "Naruto, are you there?" A soft, neutral male voice came from behind the door. Chapter 4. Finding. Naruto stood very still and listened. But whoever was out there didn't say anything else. What to do? The smartest thing would be not to answer and wait for the person to go away. But he was transformed and no one would be able to tell it was him, so what would be the harm in seeing who was at the door? It was obviously someone who knew him, and that made Naruto curious. "I heard you in there." The calm voice came again. "Are you hiding from Sakura for some reason? Should I pretend that I did not hear you? If yes, knock once." An expectant silence followed. "Oh, right. If no, let me in." Another silence followed. Naruto's eye twitched. How was he supposed to ignore that? Besides, they already knew he was there, so it would be better to let the person in than to raise suspicions. Yes. Squashing his doubts, Naruto walked over to the door and opened it. The visitor was an older teen boy with jet black hair and eyes, and unnaturally pale skin. He wore a purple long-sleeved button-up shirt, with matching purple pants and black sandals. He was carrying a spiral notebook. Naruto could not see a headband, so he couldn't tell if the boy was a shinobi or not. The only thing he was absolutely certain of was that he had never seen this person in his life. If the boy was surprised or embarrassed to find he'd been talking to the wrong person, he didn't show it. He just looked down at Naruto with his head tilted slightly to the side. "Oh, excuse me," he said mildly. "I thought this was my teammate's room." "Teammate?" Naruto echoed. "Yes. Uzumaki Naruto of Team Kakashi, under the command of Hitaki Kakashi. I was under the impression these were his living quarters." The boy's voice never seemed to vary in tone, but kept the same light, vaguely pleasant intonation throughout. It wasn't a monotone, exactly, but it was the same type of artificial lightness one found in instructional videos and public announcements. It was unsettling. He left on a mission earlier this morning," Naruto said, trying to act normal. The Hokage is letting me stay here temporarily while some more apartments are being built." He smiled resolutely through feebleness of his own excuse, but the other boy seemed to accept it. "I suppose that makes us neighbors then, if only temporarily. My name is Sai," he said with a weird smile that didn't look right on his face. He held out a hand. "It's nice to meet you." He paused, looking at Naruto very intently. "Crap, I haven't thought up a fake name or anything." Naruto thought frantically. "Now he's waiting for me to say something. Quote. Stupid face," Sai said finally, and he gave his weird smile again. "I hope that we can be good friends." A silence fell. If one listened closely enough, they could hear the snap of his self-control breaking. "What did you call me?" Naruto bared his fist. "It's no more stupid than yours, with that creepy-ass smile you've got. What's your problem?" Sai laughed sheepishly, which made him seem a little more human, but only made Naruto more confused. "No good, huh?" He glanced at Naruto and then away, scratching his cheek. Maybe Naruto and Sakura were right. I should probably stop trying to give people nicknames. Now Naruto wasn't sure whether to be angry or not. Well, whatever it was they told you, I'm sure I agree with them. Sai dipped his head. Sorry to bother you. He made as if to leave. Wait, Naruto started. Here was a person that didn't know they weren't supposed to tell him anything. If there was any way to get information out of him, Naruto wanted to try it. Yes, Sai said curiously. If you wanted to leave him a message, I could pass it on. If I see him, I mean. I don't know when he's coming back, Naruto said. It's nothing really important. I was just going to ask him about yesterday when he disappeared from the ramen shop. I'm sure Sakura knows what happened, so I'll just ask her. Where is she? Naruto asked before he could stop himself. He winced internally, hoping it wasn't too odd of a question. She's been spending the majority of her time with the medical corps lately, though she's probably doing work for Hokage-sama this time of day, Sai said. Do you know her? Not really, Naruto said cagily. I mean, I know of her, I know who she is, but she doesn't know me. Sai stared at him for a while. He may have been surprised. His eyes were just a fraction wider, though it was hard to tell, but then the corners of his lips lilted slightly. It was a much fainter but much nicer smile than before. Oh, is this what they call having a boyhood crush? I read about that in here, Sai said cheerfully, pulling a book out of his pocket. And for one horrible second Naruto thought it was Ika, but it was titled Making and Keeping Long-Term Relationships. Although, I'm not sure if she'd be interested in a puny little shrimp like you. Naruto's eyebrow twitched. This guy seemed to have a knack for saying inflammatory things in the most pleasant of voices, but at least, you're pretty brave for liking someone scary like her. Forget I said anything about it, Naruto said loudly. Already failing to keep quiet. I see, Kakashi said cheerfully, appearing behind Sai's shoulder. Did you find out something? Naruto asked instantly. Kakashi gave him his infamous dead-eye look. You do realize there's almost no chance the message has even reached them yet, right? We only sent it a couple of hours ago. How the hell was I supposed to know that? Naruto grated. I was just going by what you said. What were you doing, then? Oh, nothing, Kakashi said lazily. Just got the boss to spring you from your prison cell. You're welcome. What? Really? So wait, that means I don't have to stay cooped up in here. How did you manage that? Sai shuffled to the side to get out from between Kakashi and Naruto. I'll just go. Wait. Kakashi caught his arm. I need to tell you about your new mission. Come in here for a minute. Looking bemused, Sai allowed himself to be led into the room and Kakashi shut the door behind them. The copy nin settled down at the table and Sai and Naruto followed his lead. I'll make this quick, Kakashi started. Right now, I'm heading out in the second wave with my ninken to help with the scouting. In the meantime, we think that it's safe within the village's boundaries, or at least, it's no safer in this room than any other place in the village. He smiled. At any rate, we still need to be very cautious until the investigation is complete, even if there is no particular point in keeping you in here, specifically. I don't understand, Kakashi-sensei, Sai said. I'm putting you on the same protection mission I have, Kakashi said. It will only be C rank in terms of difficulty, I hope. But it's A rank or higher in terms of importance to the village, and the level of danger, if it appears. The two of you need to stick together like glue until I get back. Sai looked at Naruto and then back at Kakashi. I'm sorry, I still do not understand. I don't think an A rank is any place for a genin, even if it is easy for the rank. He's not going on the mission with you. He is the mission. I don't need a babysitter. Naruto growled. Who is this guy, anyway? He acts like he's from our class or something, but I don't remember him at all. Is he really on our team? It's a long story, Naruto. Can we just focus here? You need someone competent with you if you're going to be allowed any freedom at all. Get over it, Naruto. Sai said confusedly, staring at Naruto. Listen up. And don't interrupt me again, squirt, Kakashi added with a pointed look at Naruto. Sai, I don't have time to go into the whys and hows. We don't know all of them anyway, so just go along with it for now. This kid is Naruto. He gestured at Naruto. Tsunade put a henge on him. The reason for that, and the reason he doesn't know who you are, is because he isn't the Naruto you know. Someone used a kind of summoning or space-time ninjutsu we don't know about and brought him from the past into our time. He is Naruto from 4 years ago. Sai's eyes were definitely noticeably wider this time. That's. He looked at Naruto. Very bad, Kakashi supplied. They wouldn't do something like that without a reason. Fortunately, it seems they didn't have very good control over where they brought him, because he ended up close to the village and still managed to get here without being attacked. Unless that was their intention, Sai pointed out. Right, Kakashi sighed. It's risky, but I'm glad he's not out there. At least here, there are lots of other shinobi around, and he can blend in with the henge. But I need you to stay beside him while I'm gone helping with the investigation. Kakashi's eye crinkled. Tsunade-sama might be in trouble once the elders find out, but fortunately, you're a good choice for this mission. You can quickly send information or an SOS to the Hokage if necessary. I will also leave Pakun with you. I'll reverse summon him if we find anything out there. Kakashi bit his thumb and went through some seals. Kuchio's no jutsu. A pop and a puff of smoke revealed the diminutive pug sitting attentively on the table where Kakashi had slammed his hand down. Leave it to me, I'll keep an eye on them, Pakun said, saluting with a paw. Pakun. Naruto said happily. You haven't changed a bit. Pakun looked over his shoulder at Naruto. You have, though. Are you really that short, or is it just the henge? I don't remember being able to stand eye to eye with you. That's. I'm sitting down, and you're on the table. Naruto jumped up to demonstrate he was still, at least, taller than a dog. Sai laughed. Naruto shot him a disgruntled look, but didn't retort. It would have been easier to react if the laugh had been distinctly mocking, but it wasn't. It was genuine and warm. No, you really haven't changed all that much, Sai said. Actually, I'm surprised I didn't figure out who you were sooner. That was certainly discomforting, coming from a complete stranger. Sai tilted his head thoughtfully. Though I wonder if at a younger age, you have even less of a. Okay. Kakashi cut in neatly. Another thing, Sai, is that while this isn't exactly a secret, we want to keep it quiet until a decision can be made by the Hokage and the others. That is also why you're a good fit for this. I doubt it will be necessary, but if anyone asks, he's a survivor from route that you're mentoring. Ah, Sai gave an understanding nod, but Naruto was completely lost. That is good. It won't be necessary to explain his lack of a background then. The knowledge of most of our true identities died along with Danzo-sama, after all. Right. Naruto's personality doesn't exactly fit that, but it's all for the time being anyway, while the higher-ups have their meeting. Kakashi stood up. By the way, Naruto, before you go out, I have to warn you. Naruto sighed. I'll behave. And I won't run off. I just want to see things and help the village if I can. Even I can tell this isn't a good time to be pulling jokes. True, but that's not what I was going to say. Your cover might not fool everyone here. Still, you need to try to act normal, even if you see or hear something that surprises you. Can you do that? Naruto nodded cautiously. I really mean it, Kakashi said dryly. You need to stay calm no matter what, or we'll have no choice but to hide you in an underground bunker until Akatsuki goes away. And if Sai tells you to run, or stay out of a fight, you need to do that without complaining. You're making me nervous, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said with a quavering laugh. Is it going to be that risky just to walk around a little bit? Probably not, Kakashi admitted. But never forget that capturing you is one of Akatsuki's objectives. Don't draw attention to yourself. If they attack the village again in the state we are in, there's a good chance they'll succeed in taking you. I smiled, but his words gave Naruto a chill. Okay, I get it, he mumbled. Great. We can't keep you in the dark about everything, but, Sai, try to keep him out of anything that's too big to be dealing with right now. He says that he left the night of Tsunade's inauguration, before. Kakashi didn't finish the sentence, but his hand gave a strange deliberate twitch, like a hand sign, only it wasn't any Naruto recognized. He barely saw it, but Sai looked very grave and nodded. Understood, he said. Be good and stay out of trouble, you three. Later. And Kakashi disappeared with a puff of smoke. Kage Bunshin, Sai said. They must have already left. Yep. Pakun raised his paw. They were ready to go as soon as Kakashi showed up. He didn't even have to give Hokage-sama his puppy dog look to convince her. They're both so soft on the brat. Feeling awkward and unsure what to do, Naruto walked over to the trunk and started putting away the clothes he'd pulled out. So, he started slowly. Why are they sending out a search right now? I mean, what are they looking for? Sai watched him impassively, head tilted slightly. It's safe to assume if someone deliberately brought you here, they would be looking for you. If that person knows where you first appeared, they are probably heading there now. If we send forces there, then maybe we can catch them. Naruto snapped the trunk closed and stood up fully to frown at Sai. What? Sai asks. I'm sorry, I really can't figure you out. Naruto scratched his head. Are we friends? In this time, I mean, we're comrades. We're comrades but we're not friends. Naruto crossed his arms, unimpressed. Sai shifted uncomfortably. It's not that. I'm not entirely sure how the friendship thing works. If it makes you feel any better, though, I think the older you would say we are friends. I've been reading up on it. He tapped his pocket, but I've come to the conclusion that learning will take time. Oh, Naruto thought about it. See, this whole time I've been trying to figure out what kind of person I am in the future. Not that I mind having more friends, but I don't get you. Sai shrugged and laid his notebook flat on the table, smoothing the cover. Back when we first met, I thought it would be easier to interact with people if I put on an act that kept them from caring about me. So actually, you hated me. He started absently flipping through his notebook. Now that it was open, Naruto could see that it was actually a sketchpad, and he walked over to get a closer look. Sai paused on a pastel drawing that didn't look like much of anything, just a swirling mass of different colors. He tapped it with his finger and smiled. Sakura punched me really good in the face once. Naruto winced. Yeah, I know what that's like. Sai shook his head, closing the sketchpad. Do you? Anyway, after a while, I decided to drop the act and be myself. So we get along pretty well now. He offered a small smile over his shoulder. So you like to draw? Yes. It's also part of my jutsu. I can show you sometime if you want, but aren't you interested in seeing the village? Yeah, what Kakashi-sensei said freaked me out a little bit, but I want to see how things are going after the attack. I didn't see much when we were walking here. Sai nodded and stood, tucking his sketchpad under his arm. Is there anywhere in particular you want to go? If you're hungry, they just reopened Ichiraku's not long ago. Naruto's stomach growled at the thought. He didn't have to ask how Sai knew it would be a tempting offer. Strange, but it was pretty convenient to meet someone that already knew him. Ah, now you're talking. I haven't had any lunch yet. It's good to know that Ichiraku's is still around. It wouldn't be right otherwise. Operation Learn about Konoha of the future was about to begin. It just so happened that the ramen bar was as good a place as any to start. I love the new place. Naruto gushed as he settled in on a stool. It looks like it's been expanded. Thank goodness the menu is the same, though, he added, looking over one of the signs hanging up. Oh, thanks. Chuki looked up from his chopping to smile proudly. It's thanks to Naruto that I was able to reopen so quickly. He wouldn't rest until Yamato-san made it a priority. What can I get you? Naruto's grin was a mile wide. A large tonkatsu miso with pork cutlets please. Oh, with some eggs too. Same for me, Sai said. Sure, Chuki said. He tapped the blunt edge of the knife against his shoulder contemplatively. Sorry, I don't remember seeing you in here before, kid. What's your name? Chuki had a sharper memory for faces than any ninja. He made it a point to keep a rapport with all of his customers. It's Shinji, Naruto mumbled out. He glanced at Sai nervously. Apologies, Chuki-san, Sai took over. He was en route. That group, Chuki said with dark understanding. If it wasn't bad form to speak ill of the Hokage, even just a candidate one. He muttered and turned around to start his work. Seeing that it had been so easy to deflect suspicion at the simple mention of root piqued Naruto's curiosity. Kakashi's lazy attitude had given him doubts, but it really seemed to work. What is this root thing, anyway? Naruto whispered to Sai behind his hand. Later, Sai said. After they got their ramen, Naruto ate quietly, turned halfway in his seat to watch the street through the open doors of the shop. Plenty of new questions occurred to him while he was sitting there, but he didn't want to ask while Chuki was working in the background. Pakun was staring at him none too subtly, and Naruto gave him a few pork cutlets from his bowl. I wonder if they found anything yet, Naruto said. Nothing worth summoning me back, anyway, Pakun said. And I don't hear the village sirens going off either, so that's a good sign. Maybe it wasn't anyone after all. Maybe it was just a freak accident. That seems unlikely, Sai said. He put some coins down on the counter. You don't have any money on you, do you? Naruto made to pat himself down, then remembered that he'd traveled to the future in his pajamas. Ah, crap. I forgot about that. Sorry. I can pay you back if you think they'll let me pick up a few D-rank missions around the village or something. I should help work while I'm here, anyway. It's no problem. Sai counted out the amount for Naruto and put it down. Then he turned and strode out. Naruto trotted after him. Would you like to visit Sakura? Sai asked suddenly. Would that be alright? I mean, I'm not gonna complain if you're suggesting it, but it should be. I'm not certain, but I believe Kakashi-sensei gave you those warnings. Because he knew you would want to say hello to your friends. This way. We'll check at the medical corps first. Naruto caught up to him. If you say so. I want to see how strong everyone's gotten. I can't tell you much about that, since I only joined your team this past year. I do know that Sakura couldn't have started apprenticing under Tsunade-sama until after she became Hokage, so I suppose that might be different. Sakura's apprenticed under Tsunade-bachan. Naruto said curiously. How so? She's a medic nin now, Pakun said. Our little Sakura-chan has gotten to be very reliable. That's awesome. Naruto grinned. But something confuses me, Sai. I didn't understand when you said I was your teammate, but all that with Kakashi-sensei, and just now, when you said you joined our team this year, are you saying you're really a permanent team member? How does that work, when we've already got our Team 7? Sai was quiet for a moment. Pakun looked up at him, but didn't say anything either. Team 7 as it was, a training unit under a Junin instructor, no longer exists. Now we are Team Kakashi, which, while maintaining the structure of the original Team 7, is a regular unit that's subject to adjustments as necessary. For example, sometimes Yamato Taiko takes command of the team instead of Kakashi-sensei. Right now, Yamato Taiko is with the older Yu on the way to the Lightning Country. With those two gone, and Sakura spending most of her time working for Tsunade-sama, our team is a bit scattered at the moment. So where's Sasuke? Naruto pointed out the obvious omission. Sai laughed nervously and Pakun bit him on the ankle. OWW. I don't think I should really get into what he's doing out there, but the last correspondence with him was near the Land of Iron. I believe you, Sakura, and Kakashi-sensei met with him there not long ago. He's on some kind of secret mission. Without us. Typical. Something like that. Sai studied the row of new shops across the street. I really can't say anything about it. So, why Shinji? The fake name you gave Chuki-san. Oh. Naruto shrugged. It was just the first random name that popped in my head. It's the name of some jerk I met on the way here. That makes sense, Sai said without the slightest hint of irony. I just thought it was funny that you chose that, since it reminds me of my older brother. His name was Shin, and he was en route, just like I was. Again with the route. What is it? Later. You're doing this on purpose. Kakashi found it easy to retrace Naruto's steps back to where he appeared. He mostly stayed on the road, after all. Kakashi and his ninja hound Shiba led the way with a small group of Anbu behind them. When they arrived at the tiny farming village, they held back, hiding in the trees to observe. They already found the place where Naruto had emerged from the woods to look down on it. Kakashi's eye narrowed as he scrutinized the place from up in his tree. It just looked like a normal, peaceful little hamlet. Most of the residents had left to lend their carpentry and building skills to Konoha. Only a handful remained to tend the crops. They had suffered no collateral damage from the blast that had destroyed Konoha, so there had been no need to stage a cleanup here, nor had there been any reason to keep the Chunin who was stationed there. It was vulnerable, but not at risk. Until now. Kakashi touched the microphone on his neck. There's no one in the fields or on the street. The whole place looks like a ghost town. Proceed with caution, Boar's voice sounded in his ear. I will back you up. Raven and Tiger, stay in the trees and out of sight. It doesn't look like much is going on here, but we won't know for sure until we can make contact with some of the residents. Kakashi heard the other two give their affirmative and he jumped down from the tree and sprinted through the grass, Shiba bounding beside him easily. He heard Boar behind him, his steps a faint whisper on the ground, surprisingly quiet for a man his size. Shiba's nose was to the ground. He sniffed along the street and paused beside one of the fields, giving it several sniffs and turns. Naruto met up with some people here, the Ninken said. He trotted down the street a little more and ambled over some freshly plowed earth toward a house on the edge of the field. Looks like they went in there. He raised his head to stare at the house. It was a simple wooden structure like all the others. It couldn't have held more than 1 or 2 rooms. Kakashi could see a small tendril of smoke rising from the chimney, which meant someone was home. He strode up to the house and knocked on the front door. There was no response, but at this point he hadn't really been expecting one. Something here felt very wrong. Is there anyone in there? He mumbled to Shiba. Kakashi's own nose wasn't all that bad, and he knew what it was telling him. Still, it didn't hurt to have a second opinion. Yes, Shiba said with certainty. How many? 3. No enemies. I don't think. Kakashi opened the door and walked in cautiously. He saw that the fire in the hearth was really nothing but a collection of cinders. A pot of stew was over it, still warm. He could smell white rice and daikon and beef. And there were 3 bodies splayed on the floor. They were lined up all in the same posture, knees slightly bent and their hands tied behind their back. An old man, a young man, and a boy. It looked as if someone had lined them up on their knees and killed them one by one, leaving them slumped over wherever they fell. Bizarrely, there were no wounds. There was no blood. Poison. Kakashi bent down and sniffed at the abandoned food around the hearth. Senpai. Boar said from the doorway. Did you find something? He came further into the room and saw the bodies. Boar uttered a soft curse under his breath and tapped his radio. We have 3 bodies. Move in and search the other houses. If you find anyone, don't move them unless they are still alive and need medical treatment. Prioritize the recovery of any survivors. We will regroup after searching the whole village. What do you think? He asked Kakashi. It isn't poison, Kakashi said, standing up from his inspection of the bodies. There's no scent of it on their mouths or food and there are no puncture wounds from a syringe. We will need an autopsy to be sure, though. The way they are tied up suggests they were restrained and kept alive for a little while before they died. My guess is that someone interrogated them. Maybe they died from some sort of mind destruction jutsu. The enemy could have realized these people had contact with Naruto, Boar theorized. But it doesn't seem like they were tortured for information. Why would they just kill them outright like this? If they didn't bother with asking. Kakashi said slowly, if the method of getting the information itself was the cause of death. Boar became very still. We have seen this before, but that's. Kakashi drew in a very long breath. What is going on here?
Thanks guys for watching. This is the end of this part. Remember to subscribe, like, comment and turn on that bell notification. This is Milton _fanfiction and I'll see you guys on the next video.